order. Could I have a roll call, please, Michelle?
Miller? Here. Wong?
Here.
Winkleman?
Here.
Larson?
Here.
Charles?
Here.
Sanchez? Here. All members are present.
All right, thank you. And is there a motion to approve the agenda, please?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion on the agenda? Okay, all in favor of approval of the agenda, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The agenda is approved. And now, we have two students from Hackett School who would like to come and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We have Morgan and Calliope. If you'd like to come up, girls, by the flag right there, and you can start saying the pledge for us. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Morgan, and thank you, Calliope, and thank your mom for bringing you here this evening. We appreciate it. All right, now we have a address from the superintendent.
Good evening, everyone. I am proud and honored to serve as your superintendent and be a part of something special for the children of this community. It is a pleasure to be here in this vibrant city of Beloit and this great school district. Thank you to the Board of Education, who work very hard to make sure our students have every available opportunity. Thank you to each school district employee for what you do day in and day out to nurture the hearts and minds of every scholar. A special thank you to my beautiful wife, kids, and my parents for instilling in me at a very early age the importance of getting a solid education. Our collective focus will be on nurturing students and educating them at the highest levels to prepare them for this 21st century economy. As an educator, I am committed to the following behaviors: engaging students in powerful, well-planned, rigorous lessons and tasks that lend themselves to exploration, innovation, critical thinking, questioning, inquiry, collaboration, problem-solving, and reflection. Employing research-based practices, engaging in professional development that is collaborative, use of innovative technology, fostering culturally responsible teaching and responsive students, engaging families in the larger community, personalizing learning experiences. The main topic I wish to focus on in my report tonight is our back-to-school preparation. September 3rd, as you know, is our first day of school with students. We are eager for their return and ready to get our school year underway. Our district convocation event was held this morning to kick off the new year. In preparation for the opening of the school year, teachers are busy working hard to prepare their classrooms to receive our students. A number of in-district, in-service trainings are taking place, including active threat training, new hire orientation, new admin boot camp, secretary academy, building level meetings, all to provide the best learning experience for our students. Teachers have participated in a combined 10,000 hours of professional learning and collaboration over the district's PD days. DLI and EL staff trained in thinking maps through CISA 2. The Beloit Memorial High School staff participated in 2 full days of academy training through Alignment Nashville Incorporated. Pearson provided social studies resource implementation training for K-8 staff. Grade level and content area teams met to plan out their first 4 to 5 weeks of instruction. They examined their first unit assessment and planned formative assessments to monitor student progress along the way. 900 staff members will participate in active threat training this week, provided by the Beloit Police Department. This training reflects current best practices in school safety. So I'd like to highlight a few items of interest. The district now has online enrollment and registration to make it easier for families while still having the option to enroll at individual school sites where you will receive customer service that is fast, focused, friendly, and flexible. We've made some fantastic improvements to our buildings, as well as a lot of deep cleaning to put the polish on all 12 of our schools. We've cleaned, mopped, vacuumed, waxed, buffed nearly 1.2 million square feet of floors since school let out in June. New classroom flooring went in 12 classrooms this summer, not counting over 20 classrooms floors changed during the latter part of the school year last year. We've been busy painting classrooms, hallways, cafeterias, kitchens, and offices in all of our schools. We've added new heating plants in 3 of our elementary schools, as well as air conditioning in 5. At Aldrich and McNeil, we've sanded the gym floors down to the bare wood and added some beautiful colors and graphics to the floors to give them a fresh new feel. The kitchens have also seen some improvements with 7 new dishwashers, 4 new added walk-in coolers that will help us keep fresh fruit and vegetables in our kitchens for our students. Safety is something that we are able to invest in by applying for and receiving a grant of over $270,000 to install new cameras, doors, door hardware, and electronic door security. LED lighting in the classrooms and hallways was also included, with over 65 rooms and numerous halls that have been converted. With over 140 acres in our district, we've been mowing, weed whacking, fertilizing, and mulching our lawns and playing fields. With regard to mulch, we brought in over 9 semi-loads of fresh mulch for all our playgrounds, which also helps to keep our babies safe. With respect to staffing, most school-based positions are filled, and we are actively hiring and aggressively recruiting where there are any remaining vacancies. Were there to be any remaining vacancies, they would be covered by certified staff currently in the district. So for example, we would have coaches cover the classes until we would find a permanent teacher for that class. As part of our focus on customer service, all non-essential staff will fan out across the district during the first week to support schools in a variety of capacities to ensure we are off to a strong start. We are fired up, ready to go for September 3rd, and I look forward to meeting the community. Thank you. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Monroe. And thank you, Dr. Monroe, and everyone that was involved in today's convocation, which was just an amazing event and full of positive energy and hope. So we really appreciate that. Okay, now the announcements. I believe Ms. Miller is going to read those. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Dr. Monroe. That was beautiful. Thank you all for coming this evening. Summer school was great this year. We had 724 elementary students enrolled, 432 intermediate students enrolled, and 297 high school students enrolled for a total of 1,453 summer school students. We would also like to congratulate the 7 high school students that graduated from summer school. Congratulations. Fall sports have just started, and our student athletes are already doing an outstanding job. Our football team outscored Janesville Craig last Friday 16-13 for a big win for our first game of the season. All right, bring all that applause to our first home game of the season this Friday, August 30th at 7 p.m. at Jacobson Field. Girls swim also came home from Janesville Craig with a win Friday night. Come on. Yeah. Their next home meet is Friday, August 30th at 5 p.m. in the BMHS Natatorium. Boys soccer, girls tennis, girls volleyball, girls golf, and boys volleyball all have home games or matches coming up soon. Please check out the calendar on Beloit Schools, with an S at the end, .net for the most up-to-date happenings in the district. The school district welcomed back all of the district staff today at Beloit Memorial High School. We would like to offer a special thank you to our students in the drum corps, on the spirit squad, and jazz band for doing an amazing job welcoming all of our staff today with their outstanding abilities. Can we clap for them too? Back to School Night will be held for the elementary and intermediate schools this Thursday, August 29th. For specific times, please visit our district calendar on our homepage at beloitschools.net. The first day of classes to start off our 2019-2020 school year is Tuesday, September 3rd. Homecoming week is September 30th through October 5th, so get all of your spirit gear ready. Thank you, and this concludes the August announcements.
Thank you. Okay. And now we have a very special event and a very special guest. You might recall we mentioned a month or two back that we have a policy that allows us to award a diploma to anyone who had to leave our school district when he or she joined the service, or anyone that lived in our school district at that time and no longer lives in our school district. We had someone come forward and let us know that he qualifies for his diploma. Tonight we have Mr. Philip Mecca, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about him before we give him his high school diploma. Mr. Mecca would have graduated in 1953 from Beloit Memorial High School. He joined the Navy at age 16, which some of us here didn't even know you could do. And he served in the Korean War aboard the USS Bonhomme. The USS Bonhomme Richard. Following the Korean War, he worked in Beloit Corporation as a machinist for over 41 years. And then he retired, and he now resides in South Beloit. Mr. Mecca married Fran, and together they had 4 children. One, Cindy Daly, works in our HR department. Mr. Mecca also has 2 grandchildren, Holly Struer and Kelly Daly, and they also work for our school district. His hobbies include hunting and fixing cars. And tonight we are very honored to award Mr. Mecca his high school diploma. Mr. Mecca, congratulations. This is long overdue, and we thank you for your service to our country. Okay, moving right along, we have a superintendent's report to the board. We have 2, actually. The first one is our exit interview results. And we have, let's see, I'm sorry. Tracy Shirk is going to be presenting those. Tracy is the person that we contract to do our third-party exit interviews. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me tonight. And first, I want to, before I jump into the results, really thank the board for looking at this process and saying, you know, the staff that have left really need to be heard. And I name that because one of the key things that we found when we did the exit interviews is that staff really wanted to be heard and appreciated, and that's something that they felt that they didn't have. So that's the first group that I want to thank is the board. The second group that I want to thank is the number of staff that took the time to do these exit interviews. And so there were some very specific strengths within the district that we found. And one of those was dedicated and invested teachers. And the next that we found were the facilities and technology in the district. And the third was the community support and pride. And that first piece is the dedicated and invested teachers. And that second group that I just thanked, we really saw that they cared about that because we had 41.1% of staff that left the district from January 1st of 2019 through June 30th of 2019 complete the survey. And those that left between January of 2017 and December of 2018, 35.7% of those staff completed the survey. The next thing that I want to point out is areas of opportunity within the district. So there were some key areas of opportunity that we found through this survey. The first is consistent administrative leadership and accountability. So first, I want to thank Dr. Monroe for being here to help to provide that. And also, your report tonight very clearly showed the consistent leadership and the expectations that were needed for both staff and students. And that's something that we heard very, very clearly through the exit interview. So thank you for that and for leading this meeting with that. The second piece was clear district directives and accountability. And the third was student discipline and safety. All of those three things we already heard tonight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through those key findings, and as I go through the key findings, I'm going to tie those back to those areas of opportunities and those strengths in the district. So the first we've already talked about, and that is the number of individuals that completed the survey, which goes back to our key strengths in the district of our staff. The second key finding is that our former employees stated that the most significant impact in their decision to leave was a lack of support from district administration. And that was 66.3% of respondents stating this had an impact or significant impact on their leaving. And that ties back to the consistent administrative leadership and accountability. The third was the organizational policies and practices impacted 66% of those who left the district. And that's specifically tied to those areas of opportunity number 2, which is clear district directives. And with that, there were some key things that we saw there. Those were the human resources processes, and we also saw some operational processes that clearly showed in that. And then the fourth is the positive responses were related to communication between coworkers. And what we saw with the communication between coworkers is that we would absolutely see that as a strength, right? If 71% of the staff in the district said, hey, the people that we work with are amazing, of course that's going to be a strength. What was really interesting was when we broke that down by specific areas. So with all this data, we broke down by specific areas, length of stay within the district, the school that they worked at, and the position that they were in. And what we saw here is that those individuals that were with the district for less than a year ranked that as a 2.8 out of a scale of 1 to 5, where those that had been with the district for more than a year ranked that much higher, between 3.3 and 3.8, with an average of 3.4. The reason why I'm highlighting that as being something that's important is that first year in the district, that orientation and onboarding program to really bring everyone together is extremely important in showing that we appreciate and care for our staff. And you're hearing me say that appreciation for our staff over and over because that was the key correlation that we found when individuals talked about not wanting to, when individuals specifically talked about if they would recommend the district to family or friends or if they would return. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is I have a couple key areas that were key themes throughout, and I have some quotes from from teachers that really pulled everything together. Again, it goes along those 3 areas of opportunity. So the first is the consistent administrative leadership and accountability. One of the quotes that an individual stated, and as I talked with individuals over and over, what they specifically stated is the district has bought a Mercedes and yet we don't know exactly how to drive it and where to drive it to. And that specific analogy I found very interesting in the fact that yes, we've bought this Mercedes, we've invested a ton into our facilities and into our technology, and we're very proud of those, but we don't have a leader that's taking us in that direction. So that was a key area of focus that we had. The next quote that we have that really kind of summed up what the teachers were stating and the staff that were stating as they left is I loved working with the kids, and if I knew that I could make a difference in a student's life. When I felt valued as a staff member, I would do anything, yet I felt so degraded. It felt like I was starting to transfer that to students. I would consider returning to the district if 1, there was a clear direction for the district, and 2, administration was in place that genuinely wanted what was best for the students. So this perception into reality of we have the core leadership in place and the policies and practices that are consistent has me feel appreciated and valued in the district. The next area, which is this opportunity number 2, is clear district directives and accountability, which leads to expecting excellence. When we have that clear district directives and accountability, which is expecting excellence, as we heard tonight, we can all get behind that. And so the quote that I pulled out is, "You are not a savior, and they do not need to be saved. These kids can learn like everyone else, and that I expect excellence out of them, learning how to deal with the pronoun preference and being humble to ask what the preferred pronoun is and not think that you know everything." And the reason why I pulled that out is it pulled in not only excellence in the education, but also the understanding of all of the different groups that we're serving. The last kind of piece of this was the student discipline and safety. And the key theme that we brought out throughout this is appreciation and respect. And our executive director Mullenkamp had stated in the paper, when students are involved and engaged in lessons that challenge them, we're less likely to see those behaviors. And what we know from a recent Gallup poll is that from a nationwide average is that only 31% of staff are engaged. Of those 31% that are engaged, they're 202% more productive. When individuals are engaged, they feel valued and respected and appreciated. And so a key quote that I pulled out from a teacher that left when she talked about the key characteristics to be very successful was, "I will hold you accountable and respect you. And when I hold you accountable and respect you, then we know that we can move forward together." And so those three themes really bring together that exit interview that we did. Is staff are looking for a couple of things. They want to be appreciated and respected in the district, and they're looking for clear accountability. So that's what I have in my report tonight.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from board members? Okay, and the next report will be for employees who left between July and December, correct?
This covered all of that, and the updated slides that I had in that packet tonight do cover that as well. So
Well, I
those
mean this through the rest of this
correct.
year.
Yep, it's inclusive from January of 2017 through July of 2019.
So will you continue? Are you continuing on then to do that?
No, we've completed everything. The last
Okay.
interview was completed the second week of July.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Thank you so much for your work. This is really good information
Great.
that the board needs to know, and I appreciate you bringing out also that you see us heading on the right track based on things that you heard from
Absolutely.
the employees that have left. That's good to hear.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, and now we have a presentation on post-secondary outcome tracking. We have Miss Emily Peltz, our high school principal, and Mr. Mitch Burmeister, our Career and Technical Education Director, here to present this. Thank you for being here.
Good evening, and thank you for having us tonight. We're here tonight to provide some information about post-secondary tracking systems for student outcomes at the high school. And just bear with us while we get our technology up and running, which is going to help us out on that. So currently at the high school, There are many practices for tracking post-secondary outcomes. We do things such as transcript requests. We use the National Student Clearinghouse data system. We use our Career and Technical Education Enrollment Reporting System. We offer dual credit courses. We have students participate in the Start College Now program, and as well as the Early College Credit Program. So as far as transcripts go, we use a technology-based program called Parchment. So all of the data is collected through Parchment. The National Student Clearinghouse collects student enrollment in almost all 2- and 4-year colleges across the country. We use this information, and it includes students who immediately enroll and those who wait 1 or more semesters to enroll in a 2- or a 4-year college program. CTEARS is a mandated program that tracks CTE students, career and technology education student outcomes. Specifically, we track students who are called completers that take 3 career and technical education courses in a pathway. And we follow up with these students 1 year after they graduate from high school to see what college that they've enrolled in, if they've enlisted in the military or are working. We also segregate this data based off of if they've continued in a career pathway or not. Again, we offer dual credit courses. Beloit Memorial High School offers 26 dual credit courses. In our Start College Now program, students who are in that program take college courses at a college campus. So during their school day, and the district partially funds that program or that opportunity for students, as well as the state.
And I'd just like to give you a little bit of background here, where this all came from. Sorry, gotcha. When Ms. Pels and I started working together last year, we were in the midst of transforming the high school into a college and career academy. And the reasoning behind that college and career academy transformation was, as we heard from that exit poll, to really show a very clear vision to our parents and our community that we want our students to go from pre-K all the way to being very successful in a career of their choosing that they explored deeply while in school. And we also wanted to improve their engagement. As Ms. Mellencamp said, students that are engaged in their coursework are less likely to be having discipline problems as well. And one way that you can do that is, one, creating a small learning community where teachers wrap around students and they have multiple caring individuals that also know their interests and needs. And the other way is to infuse some of those interests throughout their coursework. That could be in an English class or a math class. The example we like to use is talking about how you're measuring and cutting rafters for a house in the construction academy in a geometry class. That's just one example. So we wanted to really think intentionally about get some baseline metrics on how we knew if we were being successful in our work. And one thing that I think is an undeniable sign of success is when that student is able to get into the post-secondary education that they want, and or get into enlist into the armed services, or possibly get into like an apprenticeship or some sort of direct-to-work experience. So we went back and we started doing some research on how we could collect this data in the most efficient way and the most accurate way possible. That led to our subscription to the National Student Clearinghouse, where we can see where every single student is going. We can find our top schools in the area and be more intentional planning with them. Working in the CTEARS system that's required by the state, so that we're following those CTE completers, seeing where they're getting jobs, following up with them a year later, which is definitely not an easy task, but it's very telling on what they end up doing after they take these 3 CTE courses and have all these great experiences. So that's just a little bit of background that we wanted to share with you. But this all comes down to, as you can see, we're just looking to improve and be much more intentional about the work we're doing. things that we're working on now, we have multiple tracking systems. We're looking at data from multiple different sources, and what we need to do is streamline that into one form so that all of our stakeholders can see that. Whether it's a professional that sits on an advisory board, that might be a local business owner, or maybe it's that math teacher, or a board member, or an administrator. Everybody has to understand where we're at with this so that we can all move forward together. The other thing is we can't wait until it's too late to get these kids to start planning and following up with them if they're struggling in certain areas, making sure they don't become credit deficient, and having systems in place to catch them before it's too late. So that's something that we have in place right now for this upcoming year. Looking at some of our post-secondary outcome goals. So that comes with the intentional planning. So it's not enough for us to say we're going to get this student to go to college. What we have to do is have that student have a strong direction and strong experiences so they know that they're going to college for a reason and that there's an outcome that they're working towards, so they're highly driven. We don't have somebody dropping out in the middle of freshman year or maybe becoming a fifth or a sixth year in college without having great direction on where that career is going to take them. Student outcomes are often heavily driven by the student family. We want to offer students and families more options, things that they're not aware of, things that are new to come out, new programs, things that are very driven by the marketplace. We want to prepare them to be very successful in the 21st century. So the next one, limited certification opportunities. This is actually relative. We currently offer over 11 industry certifications that students can earn while they're in high school. They could be an AWS level 1 welder. They could earn up to 3 early childhood care provider certifications. They can become Microsoft Office certified. They can become network certified for working on computer networks. So we have over 11 of these currently. What we want to do is take that to the next level and be truly innovative, and to be one of the only high schools in the state that's going to be offering associates level programs, including things like registered nurse. So this is where you're going to want to stay tuned to see the stuff that's coming up this year, because it's going to be very groundbreaking and some stuff that we haven't seen in this portion or any portion of the state, really. One thing that's a little bit tough, in this community where we value people that are taking that 4-year path, we value people that are taking a 2-year path, we value people that are going directly into the workforce, we value people that are enlisting. When it comes to tracking workforce outcomes, we still have a lot of work to do. We're able to track all of our C tiers, our completers, but it's just a percentage of our students. So we want to expand how we're collecting that data so we can really drill down and figure out the people that aren't the C tiers group and see where they're ending up, and then go back and be a little more intentional and see where we can address some of those shortfalls, or perhaps there could be some successes there, but it's all about figuring out that data. Zello. So this is a new system. Some of you may be familiar with it. This is what Career Cruising is turning into now. It's an improved version of Career Cruising, which is a career exploration software. It's paid for by the state. It's online. Students are building their career portfolios. They're learning their interests. They're learning their learning styles. They're able to research colleges. They're able to research careers. They're able to interact with different professionals, learn about salaries. It's pretty much an all-inclusive career exploration platform. With this, we're able to pull some data reports as well, and we're working to use these reports to feed into our overall student tracker so we can see where students are at as far as their college application planning process, see where that stops. Perhaps they're struggling with the FAFSA application, perhaps they are struggling with the application fee, but by tracking this data, we're going to be able to see where each one is at, and we'll explain a little bit of that further on the system that we're putting in place to outreach with those students. But the important thing is these are very time-sensitive things that we have to be very cognizant of and plan well in advance for, so that we're able to help each one of those kids.
So as you can imagine, collecting all of this data makes it really difficult for us to have a comprehensive system in which we can really use the data to analyze it to our students' benefit. And it really is difficult when data is in many different places to identify what students who need coaching and intervention. So that is one thing that Mitch and I are really working on, bringing all of the data to a central location so that we can continue to improve our post-secondary outcomes. Sure. And so one thing that we are in the process of developing, and it's still being refined, is a student tracker. This is an example of what this tracker will look like. It includes a student's demographic information. It includes a space for interventions that the student is involved in or that our educators are doing with our students. It will include the grades in all of their classes so we can continuously be monitoring students' grades. And when we see students falling in their grades, we can respond to that immediately. What's not listed, well, there is listed here, extracurriculars and activities. We believe that all students should be involved in at least one extracurricular or athletic or co-curricular type of activity to increase their engagement. And then what we would like to look at how we can add here are those certifications if students are receiving, for example, an associate's degree before they leave high school. Those types of information that will be really helpful for us in how we're tracking our student outcomes. In addition to that, we're working on refining our academy system and implementing that to as pure as we can. The academy pathways provide a multiple caring individuals that interact with students and guide them through career exploration. That is very important, obviously, when we are helping students create a plan to graduation and after in where they want to take their lives and what they can accomplish in high school before they even leave the walls of our high school. We want them to have opportunities that put them above and beyond any other student who doesn't have those type of opportunities that we offer at Blight Memorial High School. Every student has an academic lab scheduled into their day that provides daily interaction with students, focusing on college and career planning. And this also requires teachers to monitor student progress to prevent credit deficiency. Part of the academic lab weekly plan is for the teacher to do grade checks with the students so they can be on top of how well they're performing in their classes and again intervene at the earliest entry point possible. Mitch had mentioned the graduation plans. We are working with our Zello program in order to implement those. Again, it's something that we're exploring, and we think it's really important not just to focus on our high school students, but to also engage our 8th graders who are at the intermediate level as well. The earlier we can get our students on a pathway, the more beneficial it is for them. Let's see, we also offer opportunities for college visits and exploration. We're looking to also offer these opportunities to our 8th grade students in the future, as well as focused career exploration experiences. And then just continued support for our students as they move into the post-secondary world. Giving them counseling on FAFSA. Right now, our counselors meet with students individually to assist them in completing their FAFSA applications. But we're looking at holding workshops so we can have groups of students come in and we can make sure that we're providing the proper mentoring in which that they can get that done and taken care of. We're expanding our partnerships with Beloit Technical College and UW-Whitewater at Rock County to provide Beloit Memorial High School an office at the school where they can meet with academic counselors and assist them enrolling in class. So What we have seen is students committing to going to a 2-year or 4-year college, but then not quite taking the next step into enrolling classes. If we have academic advisors on site, they can provide that mentorship to our students. And then finally, in order to track the information even better, we would like to put together a graduation survey. So our exiting seniors would take this survey prior to them leaving. Probably like we were talking about during graduation practice or something where everybody's held captive. And this survey would provide us their contact information as well as what their post-secondary plans are so that we can follow up with them. And so that brings us to the conclusion of our presentation, and we would open up any questions at this time.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Pels or Ms. Burmeister? Yes. Sure. Go ahead.
Sorry, it's not often that you get to publicly acknowledge like the really brilliant work of people. So I just want to take this opportunity, having worked closely with Mitch the last few years and with Emily, the work that they just took the time to really carefully describe is like far above and beyond what any other school in the area is doing, and it's just really remarkable work, diligence, careful planning. There's about 1,000 moving pieces to everything that you just heard about, and at the core of all of it is dedication to each individual student and their success. So I just, from the bottom of my heart, want to take a moment to acknowledge your work, the work of your building and your staff, and everybody who put something into this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
Yes. I just want to acknowledge Mr. Brewmeister and Ms. Pels for their take charge leadership, for recognizing the importance of college and career, and making sure that our students have that access and opportunity given this 21st century economy that we're in and how fast it's moving. So once again, thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Anyone else? And I'm sorry. If you would like to come up to the podium and state your name. No, I'm sorry. So thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay.
My pleasure.
Okay, we are now at the point on the agenda for public comment time. And I will start with reading this announcement. Members of the audience, the Board of Education is now at the place on the agenda where we will receive public comments on areas of interest that are not on the agenda. The Board of Education will generally not respond or act on items that are not on tonight's agenda. Appropriate items will be referred to administration or one of the board's committees. While the board and district welcome public comments, we as a board also must ask that you do exercise care in your comments that relate specifically to district employees or people connected with the school system. In order to protect the rights of individuals, the board reserves the right to end comment on such topics. The use of specific names or district personnel may lead to legal liability on the part of the speaker. The board has existing procedures in place to address legitimate complaints against staff members and persons related to the system. The Board of Education asks that each person wishing to address the board complete a citizen comment card and give it to the board secretary prior to the starting of the meeting. Individuals will come to the podium as they are called and give their name and address before speaking on their topic. Each person will be given up to 3 minutes to speak. Public comments requiring translation will be given 6 minutes. Mr. Wong will serve as the timekeeper this evening. I know we have people that would like to speak, and before we get started, I would like to say that Ms. Crawford, if you have a question that you would like to ask to Ms. Pels and Mr. Burmeister, you feel free to email and CC the superintendent, and I know you'll get the answer to your question, okay? Thank you. Okay, good. Okay. And to start off our public comment time, we actually, at our convocation today, we had the pleasure of hearing some poetry from one of our fifth grade Cunningham students. The little girl is named Riasha, I'm so sorry, I knew I was going to get that wrong. Riasha Burrows, And she gave such a nice reading today that we invited her to come back and start off our public comment time with her poems. Can you help her, please, to reach the microphone, maybe, or to bend it down, or she can stand next to the podium? Oh, you're over it. Okay, you just need to have that bent down. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me. Good evening. My name is Riasha Burrows. I'm in 5th grade at Cunningham Intermediate School, and I'd like to read 2 poems for you. The first poem is called Number One Teacher. I'm happy that you're my teacher. I enjoy each lesson you teach. As my role model, you inspire me to dream and to work and to reach. With your kindness, you get my attention. Every day you're planting a seed of curiosity and motivation to know and to grow and succeed. You help me fulfill my potential. I'm thankful for all that you've done. I admire you each day, and I just want to say, as a teacher, you're number one. The next poem is a modified version of a poem called My Teacher's Going Crazy, and it's about those days when everything seems to go wrong. My teacher's going crazy, and I know exactly why. I say to myself as I see him slowly walking by. He's got 21 no-name papers, but only 20 students in his class. Gaynon keeps falling asleep while Molly makes her own bathroom pass. Alex broke his iPad, and Jessie cut her hair. Everyone is blurting out, pretending not to care. Miles is on his cell phone. Jason needs to see the nurse. Brittany's got a headache and takes ibuprofen from her purse. My teacher's going crazy, and I know exactly why. I say to myself as I see him slowly walking by. Thank you to all the teachers and staff members who dedicate their lives to helping others on good and not so good days.
Thank you again for reading that to us this evening, for those who missed it, and for everyone out there watching on television. It's a great way to start off our new year. You didn't know you were on TV? No, I didn't tell you. Oh, you did a great job. Okay, Michelle.
Okay, I have a few other citizens who wish to speak. Tia Johnson would like to speak.
Welcome, Tia.
Hello, I'm Tia Johnson. I live at 1621 Indian Road. Those of you who know me, Ms. Miller, Mr. Winkleman, know how deeply I value quality education, not just for my own family, but for my community and for anyone who wants an education. With this passion for education, we are continuously evaluating the best educational decisions regarding our son. Last year, prior to making the commitment to attend BMHS, I suggested he look at other options as well. There was absolutely no hesitation in my son's choice. There was no talking him into even looking at another school. His desire to be a Purple Knight seemed to match my own personal passion for quality education. His determination led me to even wonder, if he were to be injured, would he bleed purple? Surely his desire to be a knight is genetic, as his grandfather and great-great-grandmother, his great-great-aunts and uncles, his great-aunts and uncles were all proud Purple Knights. This was not a fight or a battle I could have won, even if I had tried. So it nearly knocked me over last week when this proud Purple Knight stated, out of the blue, matter-of-factly, "Mom, I'm okay if I don't attend BMHS this year." It nearly broke my heart. We want our children to have a school spirit and community pride. We want our children to go to school feeling welcomed, feeling wanted, feeling safe, even safe from the fellow students and from the district employees themselves. A quality education is not possible without these elements. If the board and upper administration is unwilling to create a workplace that is free from intimidation and free from hostility towards the employees whose skin color is non-white, then I cannot trust you will provide a learning environment for our children that is also free from these burdens. Beloit's history is rich of stories spanning generations, families arriving, growing, and carrying on the legacies. It is shameful students feel unwelcomed in the school district that is woven in these families' histories. Dr. Monroe, welcome. I hope you have a copy of the 1919 BMHS Purple Knights book. It's got my family in it. 1943, it's got my family in it. 65, 67, 68, our family is in this. Nice job mowing the lawn. Get to know our names as well.
Michelle, are there other speakers?
Yes, Kathy Crawford would like to speak.
Hi, my name's Kathy Crawford. I live at 935 Washburn. I had a lot of things to say today. I kind of mulled over them, and I talked to some parents, and I've talked to some teachers, and I'm sure you're interested in what our concerns are. The greatest concern for me is consistency, as far as there's so much turnover this year. It's scary. And then I got some numbers of how many people have left due to people of color compared to people of white people, basically, and then who came in this year and who's here this year for white, I'd say Caucasians, but white people, we're gonna say it like that. Last year it was 38, I believe it was 38.4 administrators of color. This year it's 22.5. For Caucasians, last year it was 35%. This year it's 77%. I need to know why that there's such a disparity with this. Like, what's going on? There's definitely people of color that are qualified to teach our kids. And it's not, they don't only have to be people of color, they can be any color, but they need to be able to relate to our children. I need to know why, because I have 3 kids in this district, and my daughter, who's 12 years old, wants to know why all her favorite people are gone. Nobody will tell me anything. Nobody says anything. You want to know our concerns, that's our concerns. I mean, Dr. Monroe, you're new here, so I want to give you the benefit of the doubt. But at this moment, the reports that I'm getting from you, I'm not impressed. And I want to be impressed because I want us to have a positive year this year, because our kids need it. Our teachers need it. They're important to us. I worked at McNeil. I love McNeil. They got some great teachers. Our principal is great. I'm scared for her. I'm scared for Brandy Herford. That's not fair. It's not fair to our kids to worry about if their principal is going to be there next year. Somebody they're used to. Somebody who they've grown to love and have a relationship with. You know, our district was almost, 80% poverty? These kids thrive on relationships. They need them. And we can have all the data you want. That doesn't mean anything until you go into a school. I challenge any of you to go into a school and sit down and talk to these kids. You don't even know them. You're making decisions about kids you don't even know. You don't even get to know. You sit on the podium, great. But you don't even know who you're making decisions about. That's frustrating to me. I'm sure it's frustrating to other people as well. I'm not going to bash you constantly. It's not worth it. I want you to actually take some time out, maybe set a community forum. Let us come talk to you and you actually give us answers. Instead of us just talking, you nodding your head and wanting us to shut up and go sit down. All right? Think about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crawford. And I just do want to note that Dr. Monroe was more than happy to meet with you and speak with you but that didn't work out with your schedule. So hopefully real soon you will have time to sit down and talk with them, and I'm more than happy to meet with you as well. I appreciate you coming tonight. Do you have more people to
Yes.
speak, Michelle?
Next, I have Brittany Keys.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Brittany Keys. I live at 1611 East Ridge Road in Beloit, Wisconsin here. So I'm here because I believe that the center of every healthy and thriving community is a healthy and thriving public school. And despite our amazing educators and our amazing students, our district is hurting. Okay. The top 3 concerns I want to highlight in my 3 minutes are, 1, the change of district culture, 2, the mass exodus of educators and staff, which goes hand in hand with inconsistencies per our perspective with the hiring, firing, and promotions, and 3, the repeated whispers about possible hindering of public participation and transparency. So first, the change in culture. It's well known that I believe that teaching is the most important profession. I greatly admire and appreciate people who dedicate their lives to supporting, educating, empowering, and molding our children. So I am equally confused and somewhat horrified at this my way or the highway approach that we're taking to working with our very valued educators and support staff that are that's within our district. Yes, I understand sometimes changes need to be made. It can't all be all public knowledge, but I do feel that this can be done without intimidation and hostility. Even more troubling than our administration implementing these strategies are the stories from our students. So hearing how bright young high school students that used to be recruiting friends to come to our district are now apathetic and no longer invested in their education here. Or hearing how parents say their middle school children keep asking, why are they getting rid of all the teachers that look like me? Or how parents are afraid to speak out at board meetings because they're actually afraid of retaliation against their children. Or the fact that I'm happy my husband doesn't teach in this district because I'd be afraid of the retaliation that this could bring onto him. And finally, when the school board student liaison, Lakaya Jackson, wasn't even acknowledged after she so eloquently shared her grave concern and fears of her fellow classmates regarding sexual assault and trauma on a school trip, and the follow-up of extreme inconsistencies of consequences for no other reasons that seemed to be for who they are. So if we're not listening to and acknowledging our student body representative, it's hard for me to believe that everything is being done in the best interest of the students. And I did see it. David Wilson was the only one there that night that said, well done, and acknowledged her and said thank you. Number 2, we have felt and experienced the mass exodus of teachers and staff, and no one has felt this more than our students. Although educators of all races and backgrounds have left, there's no denying that the troubling trend of the high percentage of teachers and staff of color who are either fired or encouraged to leave. And privacy, yes, needs to be maintained. However, this is a troubling trend that I feel needs to be brought to the forefront, discussed, and addressed. Finally, number 3, please tell me we're not really considering taking the meetings offline. There was talk that we might...
Dr. Keys, I'm afraid that you've gone over in your time. We
Okay.
allow everyone 3 minutes, but we really appreciate you
Yes.
coming tonight to share this.
Please don't limit public input.
It has to be
and
limited. We limit it to 3 minutes. That's our board policy.
I mean, don't take it
Always
offline.
been.
Okay?
Don't take it off, Mike.
No.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so
Don't
much.
stop recording the meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there another speaker, Michelle?
Yes, I have 2 more. Marianne Sviam.
Welcome, Ms. Fiam.
Hi, thanks. Marianne Svem, 1131 Richer Street. I'm here to ask you to vote down the Fund 80 proposal that the second reading is tonight. I've heard so many things about how important education is in the district, and I totally agree. That's what your main concern should be, is education, not taxing taxpayers more so that you can do community service programs. I'm all for needed things for the district, but when you move to do something like this, you look like it's kind of a sneaky thing where you figured out a way that you can tax us more without the state reimbursing us and going above and beyond what the state allows you to tax. So please vote that down and be transparent to us. Don't try to figure out a way to, well, some of the things that were listed in the paper were a daycare service. I don't see what that has to do with education. Some of the other things were recreational programs and food services for the elderly. That has nothing to do with educating our children. So please, just stick to education and vote this Fund 80 down. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else, Michelle?
Our last speaker is Tori Champney.
Welcome, Tori.
Hi, thank you. My name is Tori Champney. I reside at 1820 Burton Street here in Beloit. You're probably going to be surprised to hear me say that I'm here to talk about small appliances, but I really am, and I think this is important for our staff. So I want to take this time and this opportunity to speak on behalf of our SDB staff, who would love you to reconsider the directive to remove small appliances from their classrooms. This privilege is something that staff have been able to pay a fee for in the past. That fee was re-reviewed by the Fiscal Committee last school year. If this is an issue of utility cost, that can certainly be reevaluated again. Additionally, there are rumors that are kind of floating around the buildings that staff may also not be allowed to have cups on their desk that have logos or disposable to-go cups from places like Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts. I don't know the validity of that, but that is the buzz around the buildings. While I appreciate the desire to reduce clutter and improve tidiness and appearance in our buildings, I also understand this disappointment from staff. Sure, the argument can be made that in many other professions, you don't have private refrigerators, microwaves, or coffee makers in your workspace. However, the difference is, in those other professions, an employee can walk down to the break room at any time. Sure, we have teachers' lounges, but most staff only have 3 to 5 minutes between classroom changes, and they're on hallway duty during that time. And some of the younger grade levels have no hallway passing time at all. It's difficult enough to find time to use the restroom during the day, let alone making it to the teacher lounge. Even on lunch breaks, it is well known that many staff spend their time prepping, grading, or meeting during lunch. Not to mention how many times staff stay late in the evenings for the benefit of their students. Those small appliances sure do come in handy then as well. This concern may sound trivial, but I know that we have bigger fish to fry. But that's exactly my point. For SDB staff, it's just one of those seemingly small things that could go a long way in keeping the morale boost going. This is time for our staff to feel energized and optimistic on the heels of rather tumultuous times and when staff haven't felt very valued. Is it really worth drawing a hard line on simple comfort perks? Dr. Monroe, I speak on behalf of your dedicated staff when I respectfully ask you to consider a compromise. How about outlining specific expectations for classroom upkeep with the expectation that staff is held to that high standard? If classrooms are found looking like messy kitchens, then revoke the appliance privilege. Why not take this opportunity to give our staff the benefit of the doubt to demonstrate that they are committed to keeping our buildings clean while still allowing them the comfort of a fresh cup of coffee while grading papers? I think it's worth reconsideration. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Champney. Would anyone else like to speak this evening? Anyone at all? Okay, then we'll move on to our fiscal committee report.
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Pam. Fiscal committee met tonight, and we had one agenda item that was our focus, and that was on the budget. At this point, it is very early to determine where we're going. We do know that we have some work to do to get a balanced budget to us by October. Please remember that we are already using the budget and still have yet to acquire all the information we need to pass a budget. Thank you, Wisconsin law, for setting us up that way. No business operates that way, but schools have to. So that's what we're doing. So while we're working on balancing the budget, a couple of things that we could all keep in mind. It's lots of moving parts, right? So the budgets, Wisconsin law makes the budget dependent on the third Friday count of students. So enrollment is critical, and we don't know that yet. So to say where we are, how we are going to come out, depends on where we are with students and how much enrollment will look like. We also have to take into account, the budget takes into account property values within the city of Beloit, within the school district. We don't know that yet. We have some preliminary information, but we still don't know that yet. Makes it hard to lock in numbers to see where we're really going, because we still have to get that from the state. That's still coming in terms of what we need to do. We also still are sorting out our import and export, right? How many students are coming into the district, because we have some, and how many students are leaving the district on transfers to other schools, right? So we know that we skew out, but we don't know what those numbers are yet to be able to help us understand what we're doing. We also know that we have had several grants that we've been using for after-school programming in particular, before-school programming, that no longer exist. They're done, they're expired, we don't have them anymore. So we're trying to figure out how to balance that important function of before and after school programming for children, because I know that my input from the community is that's needed. That's not one of the optional possibilities that we can work from, right? We collaborate with a number of people across the city to be able to do that, but it's still on the backs of schools to be able to make some of that happen. And we know that we're working hard to keep the main dollars in the classroom. As was mentioned before, that's exactly where it needs to be. So to pull dollars off into other programs is a challenge. When you don't have a grant, what do? You either not do what the grant said or pull dollars elsewhere. We're appreciative of the state in providing more dollars for special ed this year. We know that we are going to see some of that. We're planning for that. That's a good thing, right? So we have to thank our legislators and governor for making that happen, because that hasn't been the case always, and that's happening now. So the bottom line is we're still working on budget. We're going to get more information about budget, and as it evolves, we'll share that out so that everybody knows kind of what we're looking for. Again, we want people to know what we're facing, what we're doing, and how we're trying to balance the budget in the end. In the end, it has to be balanced. We know that. So that's what we did at our fiscal meeting tonight, and we'll keep people apprised as we go.
Thank you, Mr. Winkleman. Now we're at item 6A, business meeting minutes from July. Is there a motion to approve?
I move approval of the minutes from the July 23rd business meeting.
Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Any discussion on these minutes? Okay, all in favor of approval of the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, the minutes from July 23rd are approved unanimously. And now we are item B, closing of the Roy Chapman Andrews Academy Charter School. Just a little background information. The Charter School Governing Board met and voted unanimously to close the school for many reasons. And some of those reasons were decrease in enrollment, the evolution of the school to something that it wasn't originally intended to be, the cost to the district, etc. So there was a vote to close the school, and we now need to vote as a board. Is there a motion?
I move to close RCAA Charter School for the 1920 school year.
I'll second it.
Okay, is there any discussion on this?
Question?
Yes.
So as I understand it, as it was presented, one of the reasons that it closed was due to lack of staffing. Is that right? We were unable to find and recruit teachers. Was that one of the things that was brought up?
That was one reason. Oh, Ms.
Okay.
Mellencamp, are you going to help us with this?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, just have a
Ms.
follow-up
Papke
to
as
that.
well. So earlier this month, we provided an update of where we were at for the hiring and the pool of candidates. We had 3 teacher openings, and the pool of candidates did not have anyone with that background of that project-based learning, and that we had from feedback from the RCA board, Ms. Papke has played a big role in in the decline in enrollment in students and the ability to provide that project-based approach to learning for students without that background.
Was there anything else, Ms. Miller?
Well, yeah, I did. I had a follow-up question to that. So I'm just kind of wondering, as we're voting to close this, what actions are we going to take or can we take to ensure that we can adequately staff future alternative ed programs, which are, in my opinion, very much needed in our district?
Okay, and that is something as we examine, I'll use the academy model at the high school as an example. We know that in order to provide our students with those dual credit opportunities to be able to earn those associate's degrees, that there's certifications for staff for the master's program that they have to have within that major study. And so we're working with places like Blackhawk Technical College, UW Whitewater, UW Oshkosh, to provide those opportunities for staff to earn those certifications. And then when we are recruiting staff for those positions, we need to we know that we need to broaden our pool beyond just the but beyond our local CISA offering. So expanding our search, more of a nationwide search, if you will, really broadening our scope where we're advertising to pull staff in.
Look like you have more to
Yeah,
ask.
sorry, with all due respect, dual credit is wonderful. I'm just wondering about alternative education. Do we have a plan or thoughts for a plan in place to recruit out people who have specific background in project-based, alternative ed, et cetera?
So that would depend on the type of alternative programs that we decide to bring in to the district. So at this time, we do not have a specific alternative education program that we are ready to implement. But as we would need to identify what are those skills that we need and certifications that we need staff to have, and and create a sustainable program for not only attracting staff but retaining them as well.
Thank you very much.
I have a follow-up question for Ms. Papke. What ongoing professional development did staff receive to build their capacity in project-based instruction? Given that was the original intent of the school, what role did you play in ensuring that the staff at the school received that instruction, that professional development to build their capacity for project-based learning?
So our curriculum delivery program was Summit Learning, which is an initiative that was brought to the school 2 years ago. And there is professional development embedded within Summit Learning, as well as 2 opportunities per year, a spring and a fall convening for all Summit educators across the country go to regional trainings, and so we would go typically to Chicago or Minneapolis for those PD opportunities. And then there's ongoing professional development on demand available in the Summit Learning platform.
So did the students complete an end-of-the-year project? Every student in the school, did they complete a project?
So much like students that we see when we look at pass-fail rates in other programs in the district, there are students who did fail classes due to non-completion of projects or other graded opportunities. So not all students did a project at the end of the year.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anything else? Yeah, I do know that we are working with the students from the school, correct, in placement in appropriate settings.
Correct. We had shared earlier this month the plan for Ms. Papke and to contact families, meet with building principals at the secondary level, and create those transition plans for students. So all students to date have been placed and enrolled within.
Yes, so central enrollment is still processing through as they're getting new students into the district, as well as transferring our students, but every family has been communicated with and reassured that they will still continue to receive some periodic check-ins to make sure that they're doing okay in their next placement.
Great.
But all of the families have been communicated with, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there anything else from anybody before we vote? There's a motion and a second. All in favor of closing the Roy Chapman Andrews Academy, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Nay. Okay. So the motion carries. And we are now down to policy 222, Rule 1, the appointment of interim superintendent, second reading.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, and I'd just like to explain that this policy was written to clarify that when there is an actual vacancy in the superintendent position, it's not a succession type process. It is a selection of and a hiring of an interim by the board. The person could be outside the district, could be inside the district, and it's not one particular person that would automatically fill in for the superintendent. So there's a motion and a second, and is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor of passing this for second reading, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Okay, motion passes. Policy 222, Rule 1 passes unanimously. Now we're down to item D, Policy 345.1, Rule 2 grading system, which was brought to us by the teachers, specifically the BEA representatives. This was that old window of opportunity that the teachers wanted us to end, and basically they said that this entire rule was not being followed and recommended its elimination. That's what we did first reading. Is there a motion to eliminate this policy second reading?
I move approval of the deletion of policy 345.1, Rule 2, grading system guidelines for final
second.
reading.
Okay, is there a second? Megan, thank you. Any more discussion or questions? Yes.
So is there currently a replacement for the grading?
I'm sorry, I couldn't
Sorry,
hear.
is there currently a replacement for the grading policy? Or is it still in the works?
I know, I mean, Dr. Monroe is going to be talking with them, but I believe that they weren't using this policy at all and felt that the whole thing was better to be gone, and I'm sure there'll be more discussion on that.
Yeah, I agree. I was just wondering, do we have like on the books right now some kind of grading policy at all?
Isn't there a Rule 1?
Is that,
I
okay,
believe
that's,
so.
I just wanted to
have go back and
clarify.
look it
Thank
up.
you.
Yeah, I remember at first reading, we were all fine with this and knew we were covered. Okay, so all in favor of the deletion of policy 345.1, Rule 2, please say aye. 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 Any opposed, say nay. Okay, and now we have policy 662.2, Community Service Fund 80 for second reading. Since we had someone speak about this, I do want to clarify that this is only a policy. We're not voting for any funding. We're just saying that if the board chooses to do that, that's now a possibility, where before we couldn't even consider it because we didn't have this policy. So tonight is just second reading of a policy that would allow us to fund it. And the things that were listed in the Beloit Daily News article today were just things that the DPI says we could do, not necessarily things that are being considered. So I wanted to make those two things clear before we have a motion here.
Still against it.
Is there a motion?
I'll move approval. The state gave us the option to use it. Nobody says we're going to put any money into it yet, and for what, but we should have the option to be able to use it. And we'll tell the community what we want to do with it.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Yeah, it's good to have every fund possible, I think, that we can, so we can be creative and use what we need to use without
Or not
saying.
use it.
Right, right. But to have that option is good. Okay, any more discussion?
Yeah, I was just saying, we just heard this presentation about like the academy system. It's all structured on community partnerships, so potentially it's good to have like that option to support our students in that way. So I just wanted to clarify.
All right. Anything else? All right, all in favor of passing this for second reading, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Okay, policy passes for second reading. And now we have policy 345.6, Rule 1, specific graduation requirements regarding social studies. This was, okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, I believe it's hard to tell when everything's all cleaned up. Michelle, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think this was just clarifying some courses that are required.
There's still one missing, actually,
Ms.
from this
Miller,
policy.
what do you see
Yeah,
missing?
we are, like we discussed at the last meeting, we need to include AP World History as an option to satisfy the World History requirement. So it was brought up, I believe it's in the minutes that we just approved, but it's just not
I
reflected in
see
the
world
language.
history under
AP.
social studies.
AP.
AP?
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute. All right, I'm sorry, explain to me again.
No problem. Let me just boot it up here. So if you look under social studies, it reads including 1 credit from modern U.S. history, advanced modern U.S. history, or AP U.S. history. And then the next section is 1 full credit of world history, made up of 2 half credits of the following courses: world cultures, world conflicts, great civilization, and human footprints, 1 half credit of American democracy or AP U.S. government, and 1 half credit of social studies elective class. However, listed after the world history makeup options is not included for AP world history. So we just need to include that since we teach AP world history.
Is Ms. Pell still here? No. Okay. This is second reading. Should we, Dr. Monroe, do you want to have it go back and changed and brought back again next month?
Or just modify the motion and put it in.
We'll amend it and we'll put it back in. So no problem. We can go ahead and vote on it.
Okay, so can you say specifically what you'd like to have it say so Michelle can take a note? And if there's anything wrong with that, we'll bring it back again.
That sounds perfect. Yeah, I don't want to hold it up. So I'd like to make a motion to approve policy 345.6 Rule 1, including the added language of AP World History as a class that meets or helps meet the World History graduation requirement.
I'll second.
Thank you very much, Michelle.
Okay, so Michelle, do you have that verbiage there? All right, so there's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Okay, policy passes. And now we are down to policy 143, official board representatives, second reading. I think this has to, does this have to do, Kyle, with the new policies?
Yep. So policy 143 talks about official board representatives on their committees. So the board president is responsible to appoint representatives to Parks and Rec, TIF, and Labor Liaison. And these positions were previously appointed by committee chairs in our current committee structure. Changes also remove committees and initiatives that are no longer active, including community district initiatives, library board, mural community revitalization committee, technology steering committee, and ad hoc pandemic committee, as well as the RCAA governance board. The Equality Committee is an administrative committee and will not have a board-appointed liaison. And the final change to the policy states that the committee chair will appoint the vice chair of said committee.
I feel like this is coming before the other ones, and I'd like to just, could we put it off until we?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
How did we lose the library? Because that's been appointed.
It's no longer, the library board informed us that it was the superintendent or his appointee that would be serving on that board. It changed after you left. Yeah. Okay, so can we, does anyone mind if we just hold off on this until we go through all the other, because it makes more sense that way. All right, so let's move on down to H, policy 185, standing board committees, second reading. And Mr. Larson, if you wouldn't mind just kind of leading us on all of these and telling us what they're about, because you put in all the hard work and.
Sure. I want to also thank Megan and Pam. We met to help come up with a purpose and the work that the committees would do. So the changes to 185 standing board committees helps to reconfigure the committee structure from 5, students, staff, communication, infrastructure, and fiscal, to 3. Actually, it should be 4. The governance, planning, oversight, and policy committees. The members of the planning and oversight committees will be appointed by the board president. However, the full board would elect the committee chair from the 3 members appointed. The governance committee would be made up of the board president and chairs from the oversight and planning committees. The policy committee would be a committee of the whole. And changes to policy 185 also state that the committees will be made up only of board members.
Okay, is there a motion for this policy?
I move to approve policy 185, standing board committees, for second reading.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Larson about this, or for anyone?
Yeah, could we, since we did change it from 3 to 4 committees, do we need to maybe pass this with that corrected language? Because right now in 185, it does say 3 committees. Is that right? Or did I make that up?
So
oh, it is in there?
4.
Oh, it does. Oh, we just said it. Okay.
Yeah.
Withdrawn. Never mind.
Okay, any other questions? Mr. Winkleman?
I'm torn because we've talked about this. The input from staff and community has been really helpful as I've just gotten back on the board and watched committees act and work. So as we've talked, that needs to continue. I understand the structure as proposed, and I am hopeful, trusting that we will, as we talked about, gather a group to be an advisory group to maintain that input. I know that on the staff committee in particular and others, that has been a really vital resource to the district and to those and to board members. I've enjoyed listening to those conversations. So I am reluctant to say this is a good thing, though I understand the streamlining and need for making it work, but that input to the board is critical, and I think that needs to be there. I'm not sure whether I want to make a motion to put that into the policy that says we must have one. I think I'm going to trust right now to say that we will have one. So, yeah.
Mr. Wong?
I would agree with Mr. Winkleman, and I think that having chaired the Students Committee for the last year, I think the input that I've received from the staff members has been very good. But I also realize, I guess over the last year as well, that this board has tended to get a little deep, and has been for some time, to get a little deep in the weeds. Yeah. And I think that we are treading into areas that we shouldn't be treading into. And I would hope that Dr. Monroe would be, whether it's a superintendent's committee or if there's advisory committees or whatever it might be, that we are utilizing some of the staff members that have been so graciously willing to spend their time to provide feedback throughout the last year or 2 years.
Anyone else?
I just want to say, while I enjoyed working on this with you, I agree. I think it's really essential that as we vote to pass this, or voting with good faith, that there will be then a very strong, relevant input for community and staff. Just wanted to echo that sentiment.
And I trust that there will be. And I also think it's very important. I was one of the supporters of the current committee structure, just for the very reason that I wanted input from citizens and staff. But I do think this is a much better structure that will help us be more of a board that has oversight and governance as our focus. And I think we need that right now. And I really appreciate Mr. Larson attending the meeting and bringing back this information. It's very, very valuable, and I appreciate you, especially all the work you put into writing all of these policies and getting them all up online and everything. It's really took you a lot of time, so thank you for that. If there's nothing else, all in favor of passing policy 185, standing board committees, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. All right, 185 passes unanimously, and now we're down to 185, Rule 1, standing board committees. row 1. And this is
So-
basically, you want to go over this?
Yeah, so 185 Rule 1, Standing Board Committee Rules, provides guidance for board members as well as administration as to which topics would go directly to the board and which ones would go to committee first.
Okay. Any questions on this? Or I guess we need a motion in it.
Yeah, you need a motion.
Motion?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second for 185 row 1?
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Mr. Winkleman?
Yeah, I'm struggling with this one because it limits what, it just fully, flat out limits what can go to committees. And we know that state statute can be anything. And we're just anticipating that the full board must get state statute. And I don't think that's true. And I am not ready to limit what can end up on a committee's agenda based on a yearly calendar. I don't think we're there yet on that one, because I think that we're still figuring out what these committees are going to do, and now we're already sending large chunks of it to the full board. And I think we're too soon on this one. So I'm not ready to approve it. I would be happy to table it and see how committees work for a while. But I don't think it's in our best interest to already set up committees not to be able to act.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Larson, but isn't this just to prevent duplication of presentations? Like, if it has to be approved by the board and not by a committee, then doesn't it come to the board instead of to a committee and then again to a board?
That was the intention.
Okay.
To help so that administrator would know there are certain items they don't have to bring to a committee and then bring to the board, where the board, you could bypass the committee and come directly to the board.
And save administrators work, double work, yes.
And I would argue we've had this conversation about administrators presenting once to the committee, and then it is on the onus of the committee chair to bring it to the board, advocate for it, and be able to make the argument. If it's such a complicated issue that they have to come back, great. But it's still one presentation, but it's at a committee level where there can be some back and forth pieces of the puzzle at that smaller committee meeting to make that happen. So I'm arguing that it's not any different, and I think we can still, we've gotten in the habit of bringing people back twice. We just need to get out of that habit. But
Okay.
I think presenting to committees, presenting finance and planning or planning is going to need to be able to talk to people, and state statute might get in the way of that. So I'm just not ready to do that.
I'm seeing this differently. Like, when it says you have to present a certain report, by law, this has to be presented to the board. Let's say the expulsions or what have you. That's not a report that the committee can come back and say, we heard it and we're okay with it. I mean, that's a report that's supposed to go to the full board by law. Different than a report that might be about why we want to remodel a cafeteria. That's different. State statute, when they say the board has to get something, the board has to get it, which is what I understood this to be. So, I mean,
I think
that,
this is
to me,
broader.
that's
It's
different.
written broader than that.
Maybe we could, do you see it written too broad? I don't know.
I wrote it, and so I see the intention that I put into it, but I can also see, it's not just for this board staying here, it's set up for future administrators and future boards, and so if it's unclear what the intent and the purpose of it is, then I would be fine with tabling it. If this doesn't pass, then I don't see how it would hinder committee function in the meantime.
I would move to table.
Well, we have a motion to pass it right now.
Tabling motion jumps in, I believe, Robert's rules.
You know what, we would probably have to recess to figure that out. I believe we have to vote on the motion.
Either way, vote on it.
I believe we have to vote on the motion that's there now. It would be nice to get these all done tonight. I mean, John, could you recommend any different way of wording it now that you
No, it needs
see
work,
what we were
and
trying to say?
I don't think I want to work it sitting at the table. I think we need to think carefully about what comes to committees, what's mandated to go to the board. We can work our way through that.
Could I move that this motion be amended to table until we can consider it again in a special meeting and then bring it back?
Okay, is there a second for that?
Second.
All right, all in favor of, let's postpone it to the next special meeting. Okay, if we could do that. All in favor of postponing 185 row 1 until the next special meeting? Please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Say nay. Okay, we'll have this come back beginning of September then. Okay, now we are at policy 185.1, planning, budget committee, second reading.
Okay, so 185.1 outlines the purpose and the duties of the Planning and Budget Committee. And the purpose of the Planning and Budget Committee is to study, evaluate, and report on plans to optimize student achievement, support for teachers, responsiveness to the needs of the community, and stewardship of taxpayer dollars.
All right, is there a motion?
I'll move approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion on policy 185.1?
Yeah, I had shared with Kyle earlier, and I'll just bring it to everybody else, that because the purpose, the very first reported purpose in here is to optimize student achievement, and while point number 2, which reads as review proposals for adoption or discontinuance of programs, curriculum, and materials does pertain to student achievement, I was wondering if we could make more student achievement explicit language near the top of that, the parameters of that committee. So we had discussed some language. We talked about maybe revising the wording for number 2, not adding anything new to it, just making sure that it was very clear that the purpose of the Planning and Budget Committee, because it's very budget heavy in its description, is targeted on all of this centering around student achievement. So I'm just wondering, we had a chance to chat a little bit earlier, if we could just revise that point number 2, not to hold, I mean, I think we can vote on it. I'm just wondering if we can vote on it with the understanding that we're going to amend point number 2 as it's written, just to specifically make sure there's no question that the purpose of the committee is to focus on student achievement.
Do you have a suggested rewording?
Yeah, we talked about, so we talked about for number 2, and like leaving alone what it says, but in front of where it starts out as review, right? Talking about in order to optimize student achievement. I also think that because part of this, like in point number 5, may appoint ad hoc advisory committees, like that also opens up kind of like some opportunities then that we do open up ad hoc advisory committees around that issue. So I just want to make that more clear, I guess. Is everybody okay with that?
I'm a little bit lost now. Number
Sure.
2 or number 5 are we talking about?
I'm talking about changing the language for number 2, not taking anything out of it, just clarifying with kind of a beginning clause that in order to optimize student achievement, that is the purpose of number 2. And then I just sort of piggybacking on that, I think that makes it more clear in point number 5 that talks about an ad hoc advisory committee, that would be one of those purposes, would be to focus on that optimization of student achievement by looking at programs, curriculum, et cetera. And then just a point of clarification that ad hoc advisory committee can include community and staff members.
Okay, I think the reason for number 5 is just to make clear that a committee can appoint an ad hoc committee. It doesn't just have to be the board. And ad hoc committee has its own rules. It says citizens can be on it. So I wouldn't touch number 5.
Oh, no, it's good.
Because it can be for any reason as well. Any reason under planning. It could be planning the reconfiguration or something. It could be planning many different things. So I'd leave number 5, but could you please really specifically say what you'd like to do with number 2?
Yes, again, what I'd like to do for number 2 is leave it to say, the current language, but then in front of where it says review proposals, I would just like for it to emphasize in order to optimize student achievement.
Okay, that makes sense.
Thank you.
So
just adding it, not taking anything
to
away.
optimize student achievement, comma.
Correct.
Okay. Well, that sounds fine. Thank you. So Is that the only amendment that we're considering? Does anyone else have any suggestions? Okay, so is there a motion for that amendment to add those words to optimize student achievement?
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, so now we have an amended policy 185.1 for second reading. All in favor of the policy as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Okay, policy. John, I believe, yeah. Policy passes. Okay, we are down to policy 185.2, Oversight Fiscal Committee, second reading.
Okay, so I want to read the purpose for each committee before we, just to share with the committee members. So the purpose of the Oversight and Finance Committee is to monitor and evaluate student achievement, support for teachers, meeting the needs of the community, and the stewardship of taxpayer dollars. And after hearing, talking with Ms. Miller again this afternoon, the numbers are no in particular order. So it was suggested that we move number 5, make it number 1, and then take number 9, make it number 2, and then leave everything else in order underneath it, because those are cover the big 3 areas listed in the purpose, and so putting those big important functions right at the top of the duties.
Okay.
So not changing the content, but just moving the order.
Okay, so if you could make a motion with that in it for Michelle, then she'll have it clear and we can vote on that. We don't have a motion in a second yet.
No.
Okay.
So I move to approve policy 185.2, Oversight Finance Committee, for final reading, with moving number 5 to number 1. I'm sorry, Michelle.
Does 1 then become number 5?
No, 1 would be number 3.
Okay.
Okay. Then 9 would be moved up to number 2. And then everything else would stay the same, filling in those numbers below.
Where's number 3?
Number 3 would be the current number 1. So monthly review, administration, summary of bills, payroll, cash, position statement.
Just moves down.
Yep, everything else just moves
All right.
down on the number.
As long as Michelle's got it. Okay, is there a second? Any discussion on this? Okay, all in favor of policy 185.2 as it's been changed, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, that passes, and we are down to policy 185.3, Governance Committee.
Okay, so the Governance Committee is a committee like we have never had before. So the Governance Committee would be made up of the board president and then the chairs of the Oversight Committee and the Planning Committee. And the purpose of the Governance Committee is to build the governing capacity of the board and grow board community relations.
Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
A second? Second. All right, we have a motion, a second, for second reading of 185.3. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of passing 185.3 for second reading, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed,
Nay.
say nay. Okay, and now we are at 185.4, Policy Committee of the Whole, second reading.
Okay, so as we discussed the possibility of changing committee structures, one of the concerns that was brought up was, where does the responsibility of finances lie? And so, we added some language to make sure that was clear as to where those responsibilities are going to lie would fall. And then another concern was, where does the policy work than fall. And so previously the board has had a personnel and policy committee, which was made up of only 3 board members. So the policy committee would be a committee of the whole and would meet on the 4th Tuesday of every month. So to make it clear, a little bit easier for our community members to follow policy changes, knowing that first readings would be done during the policy committee on the 4th Tuesday, and then second readings and final readings would be done on the 4th Tuesday at the business meeting. So 4th Tuesday would really be Policy Tuesday.
Okay. Is there a motion? And we did just discuss this in a special meeting, and we waived the 30-day wait because we like to have these all pass at once. So is there a motion?
Michelle, we did make one small change. Are you able to pull up that change and share it with us really quickly, just to be clear for the people watching at home and people in the audience, what we discussed?
So the revision was to remove and I'm sorry, I don't have the policy in front of me for the sentence, but I think it was the final paragraph.
Second paragraph.
Second paragraph at the end of the last sentence was to remove the words that said approved for first reading, as it made the sentence more cumbersome, and by removing it, it made it more clear that the second reading would happen obviously after the first reading approved it.
Right.
So
we just took out those four
just
words.
Those 4 words.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I move approval of the revisions of Policy 185.4, Policy Committee of the Whole, for final reading.
Just for clarification, did you say with the change?
Because those changes were in the first reading that we passed. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But I just wanted them to be shared.
Thank you.
For
any more discussion? Okay. All in favor of Policy 185.4 for second reading, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. All right.
Madam President, I would offer, since we now have new committees, we clearly need to remove the current committees, and otherwise we'll be doing triple duties. So it's time to do that, and that's what these last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 motions are for. So I would recommend as one whole motion, we are deleting, right, because we are replacing, deleting 185.1, 185.2 fiscal, student, 85.3 staff, 85.4 infrastructure, 85.5 communication as one single motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor of deleting the final policies mentioned by Mr. Winkleman, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say nay. Okay, now we go back to policy, the motion passes. We go back to policy 143, official board representatives, second reading. I believe we skipped that so we could pass all the policies first. Mr. Larson, do you want to just?
Yep. So quickly again, 143 official board representatives outlines committees and outside boards that the board appoints representatives to. In the previous committee structure, the chairs were left to appoint some of those positions. So now this policy, with the removal of those committees, puts that back onto the board president.
Okay. Is there a motion for this?
I move approval of the revisions of policy 143, official board representatives, for final reading.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor of passing policy 143 for final reading, please say aye. 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 Any opposed? Did you say nay? Okay, we have one nay. Michelle? Policy passes 5-1. And now we've completed our policy work, and we are down to future board meeting dates. We will have a board retreat on September 6th and 7th, and we will be selecting a new board member to fill our vacancy, hopefully September 5th, so that that person can participate in our board retreat on the 6th and 7th. There will also be a special board meeting on September 10th, and our next televised meeting will be held on September 24th, and we hope that's going to be in our new building. So,
Can I give you a request for an agenda?
we're doing that a different way now. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that. Okay, so
Can I share good news?
share good news.
Is that okay?
I think so.
So those of you that read the daily news, yesterday's paper had Stephen Walters' article. He's a nonprofit public affairs for Wisconsin Eye. Read the whole article. It's all about school spending, record $6 million, right? Boyd's in that in a wonderful way, right? At the very end, he says, and I'm quoting Steve, he's asking about graduation rates, particularly African-American high school students in urban districts. 62% in Milwaukee, 63 in Racine, 65 in Madison. Will they improve? Last paragraph. State records say four-year graduation rate for all Beloit high school students in 17-18, that's his reference point, was 84%. For African-American students, 80%. We're doing something right, folks. We're moving, right? And we're going to keep moving. This was a wonderful thing to see in the paper to say, look, there's some good things happening.
That's
So
very good.
there
Thank
you
you. Thank you for sharing that, Mr. Winkleman. We just tops off what's been a great day, starting with the convocation through now. So we need a motion to adjourn, please. Is there a second? Second. Okay, we have 2 motions in 2 seconds. We really want to get out of here. All in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.